Captain Jake Morrison stared at the scanner readings for the third time. The numbers didn't change. His exploration ship, the Horizon's Edge, had discovered something that shouldn't exist. On the planet below, massive structures rose from the ground like sleeping giants made of metal and stone. "Lisa, you need to see this," Jake called to his science officer. Dr. Lisa Park pushed away from her workstation and walked over to the captain's chair. Her eyes widened as she looked at the screen. "Those aren't natural formations," she said quietly. "Someone built those. But the scans show they're over 3,000 years old." Jake nodded. The structures were enormous, each one bigger than the largest cities in the galaxy. They stretched across the planet's surface in perfect lines, as if someone had planned to build a massive civilization and then suddenly stopped. "Take us down," Jake ordered. "I want to see these ruins up close." The Horizon's Edge descended through the planet's atmosphere. As they got closer, the true size of the structures became clear. They were not just buildings. They were fortresses, each one designed to protect something precious. Strange symbols covered their walls, carved deep into the metal. The landing party consisted of Jake, Lisa, and 4 crew members. They walked through the empty streets of the ancient city. The silence was complete. No wind, no animals, no sound at all. Just the echo of their footsteps on the stone ground. "Captain," said Lisa, kneeling beside a large stone tablet. "These symbols, they're not from any known civilization. But look at this." She pointed to a section of the tablet that had been translated into several languages. "Someone else has been here before us. They left translations." Jake read the translations aloud. Each one said the same thing in different alien languages. "Here lie the humans. Let them sleep or face extinction." "Humans?" Jake frowned. "The humans have been quiet for 300 years. The Council made contact with them once, and then they disappeared back to their homeworlds. Nobody talks about them anymore." Lisa continued studying the ruins. Every building had the same warning carved into its walls. Some were in languages so old that even the ship's computer couldn't translate them. Others were fresh, as if they had been carved recently. "Jake," Lisa said, her voice shaking, "I think we're standing in a human city, and all these warnings, they're not just about the humans. They're about what happens if someone disturbs them." Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, the Galactic Council was meeting on Nexus Prime. The council chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of different species. They had gathered to discuss trade routes and mining rights, the usual boring business of galactic politics. Ambassador Krelthak of the Draknari Empire stood up from his seat. The Draknari were a proud warrior race, and Krelthak was known for his aggressive speeches. Today was no different. "Fellow council members," he began, his voice echoing through the chamber, "I propose we discuss a matter that has been ignored for too long. The human territories." A murmur ran through the chamber. The older council members looked uncomfortable. They remembered the stories about humanity from 3 centuries ago. "The humans have been silent for 300 years, Krelthak continued. "They hide in their small corner of the galaxy, afraid to show their faces. I believe it's time we investigated these territories. Perhaps the humans are extinct. Perhaps they have grown weak. Either way, we should know." Elder Vexstar of the Council raised his hand for silence. "Ambassador Krelthak, the Council has a standing agreement with humanity. We do not disturb their territories, and they do not disturb ours. This agreement has kept peace in the galaxy for 3 centuries. Peace built on fear," Krelthak replied. "Fear of a species that might not even exist anymore. I say we send a small fleet to investigate. If the humans are still alive, we can establish proper diplomatic relations. If they are gone, we can claim those rich systems for the Council." The debate continued for hours. The younger species supported Krelthak's proposal. They had never seen humanity's power and thought the old warnings were just stories. The older species tried to explain the danger, but their words fell on deaf ears. Finally, a vote was called. By a narrow margin, the Council approved a reconnaissance mission to human space. Krelthuk smiled with satisfaction. He would lead the mission himself. Back on the planet, Jake and his team had discovered something even more disturbing. Deep beneath the ruins, they found a massive vault. Inside the vault were weapons unlike anything they had ever seen. The weapons were still functional, their power sources still active after thousands of years. "These aren't just weapons," Lisa whispered. "They're works of art. Look at the craftsmanship. Each one is perfect, designed not just to kill but to terrify." Jake picked up a small device that looked like a simple metal rod. The moment he touched it, the device activated. A holographic display appeared, showing the weapon's capabilities. Jake dropped it immediately. "That thing could destroy a moon," he said, his voice barely audible. They found records in the vault, written in old human languages. Lisa's translation program worked slowly, but the message was clear. The weapons had been left behind deliberately when the humans retreated to their home systems. They were a warning, a demonstration of what humanity could do if they chose to. "Fight. We need to leave," Jake said. Now, as they prepared to return to their ship, Lisa noticed something moving in the shadows of the ruins. It was a small robot, no bigger than a child. The robot approached them slowly, its sensors scanning. Each team member. "Greetings," the robot said in perfect galactic standard. "I am Sentinel Unit 7. I have been waiting for someone to find this place." "Waiting for what?" Jake asked. "To deliver a message," the robot replied. "The humans left me here to warn other species. Do not wake the humans. They chose to sleep for the good of all life in the galaxy. If you wake them, they will not go back to sleep." The robot's words sent a chill through the team. They had stumbled upon something far more dangerous than ancient ruins. They had found proof that humanity was not extinct, not weak, but simply choosing to remain hidden. As they lifted off from the planet, Jake sent a message to the council, warning them about Krelthuk's mission, but he was too late. The Drachnary fleet had already left for human space. On the edge of the quarantine zone that surrounded human territory, a derelict ship drifted silently through space. It was the UES Defiant, a human battleship that had been abandoned 3 centuries ago. Scavengers had tried to board it many times, but its automated defenses had always driven them away. This time was different. The salvage crew from the Merchant vessel Lucky Strike had new equipment, military-grade tools that could override the ship's defenses. They cut through the hull and entered the dark corridors of the human ship. Inside the ship, they found something unexpected. The ship's artificial intelligence was still active, its computers still running after 3 centuries. The AI had been waiting, watching, monitoring all activity near human space. When the scavengers activated the ship's main computer, they triggered something they didn't understand. The AI sent a single message across space using a communication method that no other species had ever seen. The message traveled faster than light, reaching its destination in seconds. The message was simple: perimeter breached. Initiating wake protocol. On a dozen hidden worlds throughout human space, that message was received. In underground bunkers and orbital stations, in asteroid bases and moon colonies, humanity began to stir. The long sleep was ending. The galaxy was about to remember why they had been so afraid of humans in the first place. General Alex Carter stood in the command center, buried 2 miles beneath the surface of Earth. The room was filled with screens showing star maps, ship positions, and communication channels. Red lights flashed as the wake protocol activated systems that had been dormant for 3 centuries. "Status report," Alex said calmly. His voice carried the authority of someone who had been preparing for this moment his entire life. "All defense platforms are coming online," reported Colonel Sam Mitchell from his station. "The outer perimeter sensors detected the breach 17 minutes ago. We have confirmation that non-human entities have boarded the UES Defiant." Alex nodded. The Defiant had been left in that position on purpose. It was bait, designed to look like an abandoned ship, but actually serving as an early warning system. Any species foolish enough to board it would trigger the wake protocol. "What about the Council?" Alex asked. "Our intelligence networks report that the Draknari Empire has convinced the Council to authorize a reconnaissance mission into our space. Ambassador Krelthuk is leading 50 warships toward the Sol System. Alex smiled grimly. 50 ships. The Draknari thought they were being cautious. They had no idea what they were about to face. Dr. Susan Blake entered the command center carrying a thick folder. She was the head of the Xenological Warfare Division, a department that had spent 3 centuries studying every alien species in the galaxy. Her job was to understand their weaknesses, their fears, and their military capabilities. "General," she said, placing the folder on Alex's desk, "the psychological profiles are ready. The Draknari are a warrior culture that respects strength above all else. They believe that 3 centuries of silence means we have grown weak. They expect to find primitive colonies defended by outdated technology. And what will they actually find?" Alex asked. "The U's vengeance," Susan replied. "Captain Ryan Cole is already in position at the edge of our territory. His ship represents 3 centuries of human engineering advancement. It's not just a warship. It's a demonstration of what we became while the galaxy forgot about us." Alex walked to the main screen, which showed the solar system. Earth was surrounded by rings of defense platforms, each one capable of destroying entire fleets. The moon had been hollowed out and converted into a massive weapons platform. Mars had become a shipyard where vessels were built using technology. That would seem like magic to the rest of the galaxy. "The galaxy thinks we've been sleeping," Alex said. "They're wrong. We've been preparing." On the bridge of the UES Vengeance, Captain Ryan Cole watched the approaching Draknari fleet on his tactical display. The enemy ships were moving in a standard formation, their weapons charged and ready for battle. They had no idea that human sensors had been tracking them since they left Draknari space. "Sir," said Lieutenant Jenny Walsh from the communications station, "we're receiving a transmission from the lead Draknari vessel. They're demanding that we identify ourselves and state our intentions." Ryan smiled. "Put them through." The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the Draknari flagship. Admiral Vorthuk stood in the center, his reptilian features twisted with arrogance. The Draknari were tall, muscular beings with scales instead of skin and eyes that glowed with an inner fire. "Unknown vessel," Vorthuk said in heavily accented Galactic Standard. "You are operating in territory claimed by the Galactic Council. Identify yourself immediately or face the consequences." "This is Captain Ryan Cole of the United Earthship Vengeance," Ryan replied calmly. "You are in human space without permission. Turn around and leave, or we will remove you." Vorthuk laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the communication channel. "1 ship against 50? Human, your species has been hiding for 3 centuries. We know you are weak. Surrender now, and we will spare your lives." "Admiral," Ryan said, his voice still calm, "I'm going to give you 1 chance. Turn your fleet around and return to Council space. Tell them that humanity is awake and we want to be left alone. This is your only warning." "Warning?" Vorthuk's laughter grew louder. "You dare threaten the might of the Draknari Empire? We conquered a dozen worlds before your species learned to build fire. We will add your territory to our domain." Ryan nodded to his tactical officer. "Lieutenant Stone, prepare the gravity lance." The Vengeance was not like the ship's other species. Built. Human technology had advanced beyond simple energy weapons and metal armor. The ship's hull was made of materials that existed in folded space, making it nearly indestructible. Its weapons could manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. Gravity. "Lance ready, sir," reported Lieutenant Rachel Stone. "Fire," Ryan ordered. The Draknari fleet never saw the weapon fire. There was no beam of energy, no visible projectile. Instead, the space around the lead Draknari ship suddenly compressed. The massive warship, which had been 800 meters long, was crushed into a ball of metal no bigger than a house in less than 2 seconds. The remaining Draknari ships opened fire immediately. Energy beams and missiles streaked toward the Vengeance. None of them reached their target. The human ship's shields existed in a different dimension, deflecting the attacks into empty space. "Sir," said Lieutenant Stone, "the enemy is launching fighters." "Deploy the wave projectors," Ryan ordered. The Vengeance released a pulse of energy that traveled through space at the speed of light. When it reached the Drachnary fighters, the small ships simply stopped existing. They weren't destroyed or blown apart. They were unmade. Their atoms scattered across the void. Admiral Vorthak watched in horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed. The human ship moved like a living thing, dancing between his remaining vessels and eliminating them one by one. His weapons couldn't penetrate its defenses. His ships couldn't match its speed. "Retreat!" Vorthak screamed. "All ships, retreat!" But it was too late. The Vengeance had demonstrated another human innovation: weapons that could attack through folded space. The retreating Drachnary ships exploded one after another, even as they tried to escape. In 12 minutes, 49 ships had been destroyed. Only one escape pod survived, launched from Vorthak's flagship in the final moments before it was destroyed. The pod contained a single Drachnary officer, traumatized and broken by what he had witnessed back on Earth. General Alex Carter received the battle report with satisfaction. The demonstration had been perfect. One human ship had destroyed an entire fleet without taking any damage. The message would spread quickly through the galaxy. "What's our next move?" asked Colonel Mitchell. "We wait," Alex replied. "The survivor will tell his story. The galaxy will learn that humanity has returned. Some will be smart enough to leave us alone. Others will try to fight us." Dr. Blake looked up from her reports. "The psychological profiles suggest that several species will unite against us. They'll see us as a threat to their power." "Good," Alex said. "We've been preparing for that scenario for 3 centuries. Let them come. We'll show them what happens when you wake a sleeping giant." In the depths of space, the Drachnary escape pod drifted toward the nearest Council world. Inside, Officer Keshtar replayed the battle in his mind over and over. His entire fleet had been destroyed by a single human ship. The humans hadn't just defeated them. They had made the Drachnary military look like children playing with toys. The pod's automatic system sent a distress signal to the Council. The message was simple: "Fleet destroyed, humans are awake. They are not what we expected." On Earth, Ryan Cole's ship returned to its patrol route. The Vengeance would continue watching the borders of human space, ready to demonstrate humanity's power to any species foolish enough to test them. The galaxy was about to learn that some species choose to sleep not because they are weak, but because their dreams are more terrible than their enemies' nightmares. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen such chaos. Representatives from hundreds of species shouted at each other while Chancellor Vextar tried to maintain order. The emergency session had been called after the Drachnary fleet's destruction, but instead of unity there was only fear and confusion. "The humans destroyed 50 ships with a single vessel," announced Elder Kothra of the Zelanthi Federation. Her voice was filled with disbelief. "Our intelligence networks confirm that the battle lasted only 12 minutes. 12 minutes. Ambassador." Vexvar of the Andromedian Collective stood up from his seat. The Andromedians were known for their logical approach to problems, but even Vexvar looked shaken. "We must consider the possibility that humanity has been preparing for this moment for 3 centuries. While we focused on trade and diplomacy, they focused on war." "Impossible," declared Senator Verkana of the Hegemony. "No species could advance their technology that much in 300 years. The humans are using some kind of trick, some new weapon they discovered." The debate was interrupted when the chamber doors opened. A group of humans entered, led by a woman in a simple blue uniform. The entire chamber fell silent as they walked to the center of the room. "My name is Commander Nina Torres," the woman announced. "I represent the United Earth Government. We come here today because the Galactic Council has broken a 300-year-old agreement." Chancellor Vextar stood up slowly. He was old enough to remember the original human delegation, and he recognized the same quiet confidence in this new group. "Commander Torres, the Council voted to send a reconnaissance mission to investigate your territories. We meant no harm." "And yet harm was done," replied Nina calmly. "Your people boarded one of our ships without permission." They triggered systems that were meant to remain dormant. Because of your actions, humanity is now awake. The human delegation took their places at a special table that had been prepared for them. Colonel Sam Mitchell, a tall man with gray hair, sat beside Nina. His eyes scanned the chamber, taking note of every species present. "We have been watching you," Sam said quietly. "For 3 centuries we have monitored every council meeting, every military movement, every technological development. We know about your internal conflicts, your trade disputes, your military weaknesses." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Several ambassadors demanded to know how humanity had been spying on them. Others called for immediate action against the human infiltrators. Nina raised her hand for silence. "We will demonstrate what we have learned." The main screen in the chamber flickered to life. It showed real-time images from dozens of star systems. Council worlds, military bases, mining stations, and trade routes were all displayed with perfect clarity. "This is the Andromedian Home Fleet," Nina said, pointing to one section of the screen. "Currently 73 ships strong, positioned in orbit around your capital world. This is the Zelanti merchant convoy approaching the Rigel system. This is the Hegemony research station in the Vega sector." The images changed, showing classified military installations and secret government facilities. Species that had thought their activities were hidden realized that humanity had been watching everything. "How is this possible?" demanded Ambassador Thexver. "Our security systems are the most advanced in the galaxy." Dr. Kevin Walsh, the third member of the human delegation, smiled coldly. "Your security systems are 300 years behind our current technology. We have been inside your network since the day you made first contact with us." Kevin activated a small device, and the screen showed detailed information about each species' military capabilities. Troop numbers, ship designs, weapon specifications, and strategic plans were all displayed with frightening accuracy. "We know that the Andromedian Collective has been secretly building weapons in violation of Council treaties," Kevin continued. "We know that the Zelanti Federation has been planning to claim the Tau Ceti system. We know about the Hegemony's illegal experiments with biological weapons." The chamber was now completely silent. Each species realized that their most guarded secrets had been exposed. "Why?" asked Chancellor Vextar. "Why have you been watching us so closely?" "Because we needed to understand what we were dealing with," Nina replied. "When we chose to retreat from galactic politics, we didn't do it out of fear. We did it because we recognized that our presence was destabilizing the galaxy. Other species saw us as a threat, and they were right to do so." Sam stood up and walked to the center of the chamber. "Humanity has a gift for war. We are very good at finding new ways to kill our enemies. Too good. During our active period, we won every conflict we entered. We defeated species that had been conquering worlds for thousands of years. We made weapons that could destroy entire solar systems." "So you chose to sleep," said Elder Kothra, "to protect the galaxy from your own power." "We chose to withdraw," Sam corrected. "We moved our population to hidden worlds and spent 3 centuries preparing for the day when someone would force us to return. We built an empire that you never suspected existed." The screen changed again, showing star maps of human territory. The small area that the Council believed contained all human worlds was revealed to be just a fraction of their actual empire. Hidden colonies, secret shipyards, and massive defense platforms were scattered across hundreds of star systems. "This is what we built while you thought we were sleeping," Nina said. "An empire designed with one purpose: to ensure that humanity would never again be threatened by any force in the galaxy." Chancellor Vextar looked at the displays in shock. "You have been preparing for war for 3 centuries? "We have been preparing for peace," Nina replied. "Peace through strength. Peace through the knowledge that any species that threatens us will face consequences too terrible to imagine." The chamber buzzed with nervous conversation. Several ambassadors were already calculating the military implications of what they had learned. Others were wondering if their species should surrender immediately. "What do you want from us?" asked Ambassador Thexver. "We want to be left alone," Nina said simply. We want to return to our quiet existence. But since that is no longer possible, we will dictate the terms of our re-emergence. Kevin activated his device again. The screen showed a new document, the Human Accords. The terms were simple but absolute. Humanity would maintain its current territories without interference. Any species that attacked human interests would face immediate and overwhelming retaliation. The galaxy would continue to function as it always had, but with the understanding that humanity was now an active participant. These terms are not negotiable, Nina said. You will either accept them, or you will face the consequences of your actions. Several ambassadors began shouting about sovereignty and galactic law. They demanded the right to vote on the human accords, to modify the terms, to negotiate. Nina listened to their protests with patience. Then she spoke again, her voice cutting through the noise. You misunderstand the situation. We are not asking for your permission. We are informing you of the new reality. The screen showed images of human fleets moving through space. Ships that dwarfed the largest vessels in the galaxy, armed with weapons that bent the laws of physics. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer hiding. Some of you will accept these terms, Sam said. Others will choose to fight. We are prepared for both possibilities. The session ended with chaos. Some species declared their immediate acceptance of the Human Accords. Others walked out in anger, already planning military responses. The galaxy was dividing into two groups, those who remembered why they had feared humanity and those who were about to learn. The war began at exactly 0800 Galactic Standard Time on a Tuesday. 12 species had formed the Coalition of Free Worlds, united by their refusal to accept the Human Accords. The Zelante Federation led the alliance, supported by the Andromedian Collective, the Hegemony, and 9 smaller but militarily significant species. General Corthana of the Andromedian Collective stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator. Around him, the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history prepared for battle. 3,000 ships from 12 different species, all focused on one goal, destroying humanity before they could threaten the galaxy's freedom. All fleets. Report ready, announced his tactical officer. The humans have only 17 ships defending their outer colonies. We outnumber them more than 100 to 1. Corthana nodded. The humans had made a mistake by revealing their true capabilities too early. Now the galaxy knew what they were facing and could prepare accordingly. Superior numbers would overcome superior technology. Begin the attack, he ordered. The coalition fleet struck at 12 human colonies simultaneously. They expected to face desperate defenses and overwhelming firepower. Instead, they found something much worse. Humans who had been preparing for exactly this scenario for 3 centuries. On the fortress world of New Sparta, Admiral Claire Bennett watched the approaching enemy fleets with calm satisfaction. New Sparta was not really a planet. It was a massive weapons platform disguised as a world, built specifically to defend human space from large-scale attacks. Enemy fleets entering optimal range, reported her tactical officer. Coalition forces are maintaining standard attack formations. They're fighting the last war, Claire observed. They think this will be like the conflicts they've known before. They're wrong. The first coalition ships to reach New Sparta opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams, missile swarms, and kinetic projectiles streaked toward the planet's surface. The barrage was powerful enough to crack a moon. None of the weapons reached their target. New Sparta's defenses existed in folded space, creating a barrier that redirected the attacks into empty dimensions. The planet's surface remained untouched. Return fire, Claire ordered. New Sparta's response was unlike anything the Coalition had ever seen. The planet itself became a weapon, generating gravitational fields that crushed enemy ships like insects. Entire squadrons of Coalition vessels were compressed into balls of metal and plasma in seconds, but the real demonstration of human power came from the fleet, defending the planet. The UES Retribution, commanded by Captain Tony Adams, engaged 200 Coalition ships by itself. The human vessel moved through space like a living thing, its weapons striking targets through folded space and its shields deflecting attacks from multiple dimensions. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Davis from the weapons station, "the enemy is launching fighters." "Deploy the reality distortion field," Tony ordered. The space around the coalition fighters began to twist and bend. The small ships found themselves flying through areas where the laws of physics no longer applied. Some fighters aged 1,000 years in seconds. Others found themselves frozen in time. A few simply ceased to exist, erased from reality by human technology. The battle at New Sparta lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the coalition had lost 800 ships. The human defenders had suffered no casualties. Similar scenes played out across human space. At the Kepler colony, the human ship UES Vengeance used weapons that caused stars to flicker, temporarily disrupting the nuclear fusion in nearby suns. Coalition ships found themselves floating in systems where gravity no longer worked properly. Dr. Rachel Stone, head of the Human Pacification Protocol, watched the battles from her command center on Luna. The protocol was humanity's response to large-scale warfare, a system designed not to destroy enemy worlds but to demonstrate humanity's ability to do so. "Begin Phase 2, she ordered. Across coalition space, impossible things began to happen. On the Zelanti homeworld, the atmosphere inverted for exactly 1 hour. The sky became breathable while the ground became toxic gas. Citizens fled to underground shelters while their government received a simple message. This was a demonstration, not an attack. The Andromedian capital world experienced a gravity reversal. For 2 hours, everything on the planet's surface fell upward instead of down. Buildings held to the ground by magnetic clamps while people clung to whatever they could find. The message that accompanied this demonstration was equally simple. We could have made this permanent. On the hegemony's most important industrial world, all metal objects became temporarily magnetic. Ships stuck to buildings, vehicles adhered to roads, and weapons fused to their users' hands. The disruption lasted exactly 60 minutes followed by another message: your industry exists because we allow it. General Corthana watched his fleets being systematically destroyed with growing horror. The humans were not just winning the war, they were demonstrating that they could end galactic civilization whenever they chose to do so. "Fall back to defensive positions," he ordered. "We need to regroup and develop new strategies," but there was nowhere to fall back to. Human fleets had appeared in coalition space without warning, moving through dimensions that other species couldn't detect. The human ship UES Harbinger, under Captain Eddie Martinez, materialized in the heart of Andromedian space and disabled their entire home fleet in 20 minutes. "How are they doing this?" demanded Admiral Vexcara of the Zelanti fleet. "Our sensors show nothing, and then suddenly they're right beside us." The answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Jake Morrison, the explorer who had first discovered the human ruins, had been studying human technology since the war began. His analysis was disturbing. "They're not traveling through normal space," he explained to the coalition leaders. "They're moving through folded dimensions, using the same technology that powers their weapons and shields. They can appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning." The coalition tried desperate measures. They launched nuclear weapons at human colonies only to watch the missiles disappear into dimensional portals. They attempted to use biological weapons, but the humans had defenses that operated on a genetic level. They even tried to attack Earth itself, but the human homeworld was protected by rings of defense platforms that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. After 6 months of fighting, the coalition had lost 70% of their military forces. The humans had demonstrated weapons that could manipulate time, bend space, and rewrite the laws of physics. They had shown that they could disable entire star systems or make planets uninhabitable with a single command. More importantly, they had proven that they could have ended the war at any time. Every human victory was measured and controlled. They destroyed military targets while leaving civilian populations unharmed. They disabled industrial facilities without causing permanent damage. They demonstrated overwhelming power while showing remarkable restraint. The turning point came when Admiral Claire Bennett's fleet penetrated the core world's defensive perimeter. The core worlds were the most heavily defended systems in the galaxy, protected by ancient weapons and elite military units. Breaking through their defenses should have taken months of brutal fighting. The human fleet accomplished it in 6 hours. The UES Dominion, Admiral Paul Jackson's flagship, appeared in the core world's capital system without warning. The ship was massive, larger than some space stations, and armed with weapons that defied understanding. It broadcast a simple message to the coalition government: "We are here because we choose to be. We could have been here at any time." The message was accompanied by a demonstration. The Dominion created a small artificial star in the system's outer reaches, then extinguished it with a thought. The implications were clear: humanity could create or destroy stellar objects at will. Coalition resistance collapsed within days. The species that had united to fight humanity realized that they were not facing an enemy they could defeat. They were facing a force that had spent 3 centuries preparing for this exact war, developing weapons and strategies that made their own military technology look primitive. The war ended not with humanity's victory, but with their decision to stop fighting. They had achieved their objective. The galaxy now understood that humanity was not a species to be conquered, controlled, or ignored. The humans had proven that they could end any threat to their chosen way of life. President Maria Lopez stood before the assembled representatives of the Galactic Council. The great chamber was quieter than it had ever been. The war was over, but not because humanity had conquered the galaxy. It was over because humanity had chosen to stop fighting. "Members of the Council," Maria began, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. "6 months ago, several species decided that humanity posed a threat to galactic freedom. They were right. We do pose a threat. But not in the way they imagined." The surviving coalition leaders sat in their designated areas, their military uniforms bearing the marks of defeat. General Corthana of the Andromedian Collective stared at the floor, unable to meet the human president's gaze. His entire military philosophy had been shattered by the war. "We are a threat to any species that believes might makes right," Maria continued. "We are a threat to those who think that superior technology gives them the right to dominate others. We are a threat to anyone who believes that war is an acceptable solution to political problems." Dr. Amanda Foster, humanity's new ambassador to the galaxy, stood beside the president. Amanda had spent her entire career studying galactic politics, preparing for this moment when humanity would need to reshape the galaxy's understanding of power and responsibility. "The war you just witnessed was not a war," Amanda explained to the council. "It was a demonstration. Every battle was carefully planned to show you what we are capable of without causing unnecessary destruction. We could have ended this conflict in the first hour, but we chose to let it continue so that you would understand the full scope of our capabilities." Chancellor Vextar, now much older and wiser than when the crisis began, raised his hand to speak. "President Lopez, the Council acknowledges humanity's military superiority. What are your demands?" "We have no demands," Maria replied. "We have achieved our objective. The galaxy now understands that humanity cannot be conquered, controlled, or ignored. That understanding is enough." The chamber buzzed with confused whispers. Representatives had expected humanity to impose harsh terms, to demand tribute or territory. Instead, the humans were offering something unexpected, a return to the way things were, but with new understanding. "The new accords are simple," Amanda announced, displaying the document on the chamber's main screen. "Humanity will maintain our current territories without interference. We will not expand beyond our established borders. We will not impose our will on other species. In return, the galaxy will respect our sovereignty and leave us in peace." Elder Kothra of the Zelanti Federation stood up slowly. Her species had lost more ships than any other in the war, yet she was one of the first to understand humanity's true message. "You could rule the galaxy," she said. "Your technology, your military power, you could make every species bow to your will. Why don't you?" Maria smiled sadly. Because ruling the galaxy was never our goal. We withdrew from galactic politics 3 centuries ago because we recognized something about ourselves. Humanity is very good at war, but we are not very good at peace. When we are involved in galactic affairs, conflicts escalate. Problems that could be solved with words end up being solved with weapons. Dr. Kevin Walsh, who had served as humanities intelligence chief throughout the war, stepped forward. We spent 3 centuries studying every species in the galaxy. We learned about your cultures, your values, your ways of solving problems. Most of you prefer negotiation to violence. You build alliances based on mutual benefit rather than fear. You are better at creating peace than we are. So we choose to step back, Amanda continued. We will remain in our territories, developing our technology and living according to our own values. We will not interfere in galactic politics unless our security is threatened. In essence, we are returning to our voluntary isolation, but this time you understand why we chose it. The new accords established humanity as a stabilizing force through demonstrated strength rather than active participation. The galaxy would continue to function as it always had, with the Council mediating disputes and managing trade. But now there was an unspoken understanding that major conflicts might draw human attention. Captain Danny Rivera, commander of the patrol vessel UES Watchman, represented the new reality at the galaxy's borders. His ship and others like it would monitor galactic affairs from a distance, ready to intervene only if humanity's security was threatened or if conflicts threatened to destabilize entire regions. We are not your rulers, Danny explained to a group of border system governors. We are not your police force. We are simply here to ensure that the peace we have all worked to build is not threatened by those who prefer violence to diplomacy. The psychological effect of humanity's restraint was more powerful than any weapon they had demonstrated during the war. Species that had been enemies for generations found themselves settling disputes peacefully, knowing that major conflicts might draw human intervention. The Council transformed from a governing body into a diplomatic forum, with humanity as the unspoken final authority. On New Geneva, one of humanity's hidden colony worlds, children played in parks while their parents worked in research facilities and manufacturing centers. The human empire continued to grow and develop, but always within the boundaries they had established for themselves. They had learned to channel their talent for innovation into peaceful pursuits rather than military advancement. Dr. Rachel Stone, who had developed the pacification protocol, now led a research team focused on understanding the fundamental forces of the universe. The same technology that had been used to demonstrate humanity's power during the war was now being applied to solving problems like faster-than-light communication and dimensional energy sources. The old warnings had been replaced with new ones, carved into monuments throughout the galaxy. Here live the humans. They are awake now. Do not give them reason to act. But these warnings were different from the ancient ones Jake Morrison had discovered. They carried respect rather than fear, understanding rather than mystery. Ambassador Krelthik, the Draknari who had started the crisis by convincing the Council to investigate human space, now served as a professor of military history. He taught young officers about the importance of understanding one's enemies and the dangers of underestimating unknown capabilities. The humans taught us something important, he would tell his students. True strength is not the ability to destroy your enemies. True strength is the wisdom to know when not to use your power. The galaxy had learned to live with the knowledge that somewhere in their quiet corner of space, humanity continued to exist and develop. They were not sleeping, as the old stories claimed. They were simply choosing to live peacefully, secure. In the knowledge that they could defend themselves if necessary, trade resumed between human and alien territories, but on humanity's terms. Human technology was shared selectively, always with the understanding that it came with responsibilities. Species that received human innovations were expected to use them wisely and peacefully. Years passed, and the galaxy settled into a new routine. Conflicts still arose, but they were resolved through negotiation rather than warfare. The memory of humanity's demonstration during the Second Galactic War served as a constant reminder that some wars were too dangerous to fight on Earth. Maria Lopez's successor, President James Carter, looked out at the stars and smiled. The galaxy had finally learned the lesson humanity had tried to teach 3 centuries ago. Sometimes the strongest choice is to step away from power, and sometimes the wisest action is choosing not to act at all. The humans had returned to their quiet existence, but now the galaxy understood that their silence was a gift, not a weakness. They had given the galaxy something precious: peace through the knowledge that some powers are too terrible to awaken, and some species are wise enough to sleep voluntarily.